The cold night of February 9th, 2004, marked the beginning of a mystery that would consume amateur sleuths and professional investigators for decades. A story unfolding on a desolate stretch of road in the New Hampshire wilderness. It was here, amidst a fresh blanket of snow, that a young woman seemingly vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a wrecked car and a baffling trail of questions. This is the enduring enigma of Maura Murray, a talented college student whose life and sudden disappearance continued to defy all logical explanation. Maura Murray was a complex individual, a skilled athlete, and a diligent nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. At 21 years old, she was a driven young woman with a bright future, known for her sharp intellect and adventurous spirit. Yet, beneath this facade of normalcy, Maura was navigating a period of personal turmoil. In the months leading up to her disappearance, she had been involved in 2 separate car accidents, one particularly damaging to her father's new car. There were rumors of relationship problems, and she had recently been accused of credit card fraud, though the charges were later dropped. These underlying stressors paint a picture of a young woman under considerable pressure, perhaps seeking an escape from a life that was becoming increasingly complicated. The days immediately preceding her vanishing act were marked by a series of strange and seemingly inexplicable actions. On the Thursday before she disappeared, Maura crashed her father's new car into a guardrail in Hadley, Massachusetts, causing significant damage. The next day, Friday, February 6th, her father, Fred Murray, came to pick up the car and help her arrange repairs. They spent the night at a motel, and Fred claims they discussed Maura buying a new car. On Saturday, Fred dropped Maura off at her dorm and then drove off in her still damaged car. Later that night, Maura was working a security shift at the university's art building. Around 2:30 a.m. on Sunday, February 8th, she made a distressed phone call to her older sister, Kathleen, during which she was reportedly crying hysterically, though Kathleen later stated it was about a mundane relationship issue. The crucial day, Monday, February 9th, began with more perplexing behavior. Maura used her personal computer to search for directions to the White Mountains and Burlington, Vermont. She then sent an email to her athletic coach, informing him she would be absent from practice for a week due to a death in her family, a claim that was entirely false. She also sent a similar email to her work supervisor. That afternoon, she withdrew $280 from an ATM, nearly all the money in her account. She visited a liquor store and purchased Kahlua, Bailey's Irish Cream, vodka, and Franzia wine. She then drove to a local bank to obtain auto insurance information for the previous car accident. She packed a duffel bag, packed some academic books, but inexplicably left her textbooks, personal belongings, and even her pet ferret in her dorm room. Before leaving, she deleted a voicemail from her boyfriend and then left a cryptic voicemail for him, telling him she'd talk to him later. With her car already somewhat damaged from her previous crash, and a deeply unsettling feeling of purpose, Maura Murray set off into the cold, winter afternoon, her destination unknown to anyone but herself. Her journey led her north, into the rugged, snow-covered landscape of New Hampshire. Around 7 p.m., Maura's 1996 Saturn crashed into a snowbank on Route 112, also known as Wild Ammonoosuc Road, near Woodsville, New Hampshire. It was a single-vehicle accident occurring on a desolate stretch of road, often isolated at night. The crash site was just a few miles east of a small settlement, but far enough that passing vehicles were infrequent. What happened next is critical to the mystery. A local bus driver, Butch Atwood, was driving home when he spotted Maura's wrecked Saturn. He pulled over and offered assistance. He observed Maura shivering, but she repeatedly refused his help, insisting she had already called AA. This was a critical lie, as there was no cell phone service in that area in 2004, and no record of such a call. Atwood, feeling she might be intoxicated or just in shock, eventually drove home, a mere 100 yards away, to call the police on his landline. While Atwood was making his call, a couple returning home from vacation, the Westmans, drove by the crash site. They reported seeing a car at the scene, and initially, a figure standing outside it. They slowed down, but seeing the car appeared to be unoccupied as they passed, they continued home to call for assistance. It's unclear if they saw Maura or someone else. Minutes later, a New Hampshire state trooper, Officer Cecil Smith, responded to Atwood's call. When Smith arrived at the crash site, the car was there, locked, but Maura Murray was gone. There was no trace of her. It was as if she had simply vanished into the frigid New Hampshire night. The time was approximately 7:46 p.m. The weather was cold, with temperatures hovering around 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and a light snow was falling. Survival in such conditions without proper clothing for an extended period would be extremely difficult. The abandoned Saturn offered few immediate answers, but some baffling clues. The car was locked. Inside, police found a damaged windshield and a ragged cloth stuffed into the tailpipe, a known trick to prevent exhaust fumes from circulating back into the vehicle if someone were resting inside, or perhaps a temporary fix after a previous accident. Her empty liquor bottles, including the newly purchased wine and alcohol, were also found. A box of Maura's academic books, a diamond necklace, and various items of clothing were also inside. Crucially, her cell phone was missing and its battery was never found. This detail, combined with her earlier false claim about calling AAA, suggested a deliberate choice to cut off communication. The investigation that followed was extensive but frustrating. Hundreds of law enforcement personnel, search and rescue teams, tracking dogs, and even helicopters were deployed. The immediate area around the crash site, the surrounding woods, and nearby roads were scoured. The tracking dogs followed Maura's scent for about 100 feet from the car, then abruptly lost it, suggesting she either got into another vehicle or turned off onto a non-road surface that obscured her scent. Despite repeated, thorough searches over the years, no body, no personal belongings, and no definitive trace of Maura Murray have ever been found. The Maura Murray case quickly gained national attention, fueled by the internet and the sheer baffling nature of the disappearance. Her family, particularly her father Fred and sister Julie, have remained tirelessly dedicated to finding her, appearing on countless television shows and tirelessly pursuing leads, often expressing frustration with the initial police efforts and the perceived lack of transparency. Their pain is palpable, a constant reminder of a loved one swallowed by the unknown. The case is riddled with theories, each attempting to fill the gaping void of information, yet none fully satisfying all the perplexing details. The most prominent theory suggests a voluntary disappearance. Perhaps, overwhelmed by stress, personal problems, and legal issues, Maura simply wanted to escape her life and planned to vanish. Her strange preparations, the false emails, the cash withdrawal, the packed bags, the deleted voicemails, all point towards an intentional departure. However, if she intended to disappear, why crash her car? Why leave it in such an obvious location? And why has she never resurfaced in any way, despite the extensive public search and her known family ties? Another popular theory is accidental exposure or hypothermia. Perhaps after leaving the car, disoriented and possibly impaired by alcohol, she wandered into the dense woods, succumbed to the elements, and her body was never found due to the rugged terrain or animal activity. The missing phone battery could indicate she tossed it, further cutting ties. But the distinct stopping of the scent dogs suggests she didn't just walk off into the woods indefinitely. The most chilling theory involves foul play, that Maura was picked up by a passing motorist, either a good Samaritan or someone with malicious intent. Given the remote location and the late hour, an abduction could have occurred within minutes of Atwood leaving for his phone. There have been various local suspects and rumors, some involving known criminals in the area, but no concrete evidence has ever linked anyone directly to her disappearance. The White Mountain serial killer theory, linking her to other unsolved disappearances in the region, has also been discussed but remains speculative. Other more far-fetched theories include suicide, though no note was found and her actions don't fully align, or even that she was attempting to meet someone specific on Route 112 and something went terribly wrong. The rag in the tailpipe has also been a focus of debate. Was it a deliberate attempt to kill herself via carbon monoxide, or simply a temporary fix from an earlier accident? The latter seems more plausible given the short time she was in the car at the crash site. Over the years, renewed interest, fueled by podcasts, documentaries, and fervent online communities, has brought new eyes to the case. Cold case investigators continue to review evidence, and new searches are occasionally conducted. However, without a body or a definitive breakthrough, the official status of Maura Murray's disappearance remains exactly what it was on February 9, 2004, unsolved. The vanishing act of Maura Murray continues to haunt the quiet roads of New Hampshire. Her story is a poignant reminder of how quickly a life can disappear without a trace, leaving behind only an agonizing void for those who loved her and an enduring mystery for the world to endlessly ponder. Her ghost, perhaps, still wanders the desolate Route 112, a silent question mark in the annals of true crime.